Invest 96L continues to organize, and multiple tropical systems are possible in just the next couple of weeks. Your forecast across the Caribbean and the Bahamas starts right now.
This is Meteo Mundo.
Hi friends, Rusty back here at Meteo Mundo. We are your home for Caribbean weather. It's great to see you for the latest video, friends. I hope you're doing well. Coming up in this video, we'll talk about what's happening in the tropics right now, look at your island by island rainfall forecast, and deep dive into the next 10 days with potential tropical development as the Atlantic looks to get very active in a very short time. Let's get started. A lot to get into. Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. It's storm season. A storm moves into your area. They can walk you through every step of the insurance claim process. Go to leanonmelaw.com if you would like more information. As always, I'd love to hear from the Meteo Mundo weather community. Let me know what's been happening in your area, what the weather has been like. Drop a comment below. Just say hi. I appreciate that as well. We'll start off with our surface analysis. Now, we still have Dexter. It is a post-tropical cyclone, but the winds are actually extremely strong. Gale force to near hurricane conditions on the eastern side. But again, Dexter is moving away into the open waters of the Atlantic. We still have a weak potential disturbance off the United States East Coast to talk about. General troughing with just a lot of wet weather here for portions of the Bahamas, Turks and Caicos area today, back into the greater Antilles in general. And then Invest 96E, which continues to strengthen here in the Atlantic basin. So let's get into it. We will start with the latest on 96L. Again, became an invest yesterday. Winds are 30 miles an hour. Now, it's a little compact system. There's no doubt about it, but it is continuing to hold together. There is a fair amount of moisture on the northern side. There's some drier air, but again, the Saharan air layer isn't being ingested back into this broad center. And, slowly but surely, and I do mean slowly, we're more than likely going to get to development. We have a 60% chance for the hurricane center still here on this Thursday for you here with that orange area. Now, again, we're not expecting it to develop between here and here. This would be the first opportunity in about a 48-hour time frame. It should continue to wrap up here. Wind shear is weak. Sea surface temperatures are high. And again, enough moisture to play with where, there's a very high likelihood that eventually we're going to get ourselves a tropical depression, of course, even a tropical storm. Next name on the board is going to be Aaron. Now, the Hurricane Center does have this bending back to the north, well away from the Lesser Antilles. That is good news. We'll talk more about the potential evolution of 96L coming up in just a second, but the short term is good for the Lesser Antilles as far as the track, maybe not so good for Bermuda down the road. Let's talk about what's happening right now. We have more moisture coming back into the Windward Islands, especially over Trinidad and Tobago and towards Grenada and Nueva Esparta on this Thursday. I want to bring on the visible satellite imagery here, and you just see that thick plume of cloud coverage over that area right now, and we've had waves of heavy rainfall across especially Trinidad today and portions of Tobago. Got a video today. This is from Carter, Port of Spain, Trinidad, and you can see just how wet it is. Gray sky out there, the rain, the breeze whipping on through, so pretty squally weather in Trinidad. If you live in that area, let me know in the comments section below what you're seeing, if you've had any localized flooding, urban flooding, some street flooding, something like that. It's a possibility with some of the rain that we had today. Appreciate you dropping in the comments section, helping to tell the weather story in your area. Again, not as much towards Grenada. Still going to see some scattered showers for the Grenadines on over towards St. Vincent and Barbados, but the farther north that you go, the moisture is limited. I mean, this really is a small area here with the best opportunity for showers and storms over Trinidad. We could see a couple of passing showers over St. Lucia, and that, of course, is our next live camera here at Meteo Mundo. Hit the wrong button, but that's okay. Look at that camera. It's sweeping around live, showing you what's going on across the Corinth area there on the western side of the island. Look at that boat just streaming along. Again, a little bit of a breeze. We've had some, passing showers here or there, but it's really not been a bad Thursday across St. Lucia. If you live on St. Lucia, again, let me know in the comments section below. All right, we'll swing back over here to Boy, I am all over the place with these button pushes today. Sorry about that. I'll get my act together. You're drying out the farther north in the Lesser Antilles that you go. And again, good wind in the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico for today. And just a few fair weather, quick bursts of rain from time to time as a possibility from Martinique to Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda, St. Kitts and Nevis, Saba, St. Eustatius, St. Bart, St. Martin, and Anguilla, but many dry hours and locations here. One of the bigger stories is actually the temperatures in these areas. It's getting a little bit sultry from time to time. We have some heat advisories. Those are the actual air temperatures, upper 80s to right around 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 32 degrees Celsius when you factor in the feels like, the humidity that is, the feels like temperatures right now, upper 90s to the low triple digits, about 98 to 103 for feels like temperature. So if you're just not tolerant to some of the hotter conditions, you might want to avoid that midday sun. That means we've dried out a little bit here in general over Puerto Rico at the hour. We'll bring back on our infrared satellite imagery here, and I'll make sure I get the lightning data back on as well. Still, just like the last couple of afternoons, trying to get a couple of thunderstorms developing on the far western sides of Puerto Rico from the Ulti Alto area, Mayagüez, especially up towards Aguadilla, where again, we've had fresh winds, 25, even 30 miles an hour, not just there, but Ponce as well, St. Thomas, St. Croix, St. John, breezy conditions over Vieques and Culebra, and Road Town, Tortola, Virgin Gorda, and Agata as well. Before I move on, I actually have a beautiful shot here from Isabel Surdy in the Christiansted area. Again, just some of those fair weather clouds ripping across the area today. Really, really gorgeous shot. Appreciate Isabel sitting in that picture there. Hey, we like the blue sky pictures just as we like the active weather as well. So we'll swing out towards the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Again, a little bit drier for today. The axis of moisture has pushed off towards the west. We'll get more thunderstorms late on this Thursday back into the DR. Still could see some locally heavier rainfall from yesterday. Nothing right now, but from Santo Domingo to the San Pedro de Macorís area, there are some flood advisories. You know, we could get a couple of inches of rain, up to 50, maybe even 70 millimeters in a couple of spots. It's led to some isolated flooding, and if they get more rain today, it could do the same situation late today. So if you live in those areas, if you've had, again, any localized flooding, let me know in the comment section below. Starting to see a few thunderstorms drift into our Jamaica, but it's a different story today. You can clearly see that the winds are coming out of the south. That has allowed moisture to return to the central and the eastern sides of the islands, and we've had at least a better chance for some spotty showers and storms here for St. Mary, St. Andrew, Kingston, St. Thomas, Portland parishes on the eastern side of the island. Port Maria, Port Antonio, Morant Bay, on over towards Kingston. It's not extremely widespread. Not a lot of folks got it, but at least the chance was there. And if you live in this part of Jamaica and you haven't had the rain lately and you got a thunderstorm, let me know. Now look, this is still just beginning to develop. We're going to get additional storms today near the Maypen area, on over towards our friends there in Old Harbor. Linstead could have a thunderstorm, and then they'll build off west. So Mandeville area right now, but they'll get towards Westmoreland and Hanover parishes, Montego Bay, Negril, Lucy, Savlamar as we get deeper into this Thursday afternoon. Even trying to pop up a couple of thunderstorms here right over Grand Cayman. You can see that. We have live lightning data here at Meteo Mundo. So look at that lightning count right over the Grand Cayman area there. If you live on Grand Cayman, you had some of those, locally heavy downpours, again, let us know. Thunderstorms are reigning supreme in the central and the western sides of Cuba from Cienfuegos to Havana. And then we get into another active pattern here. You can clearly see we have a broad spin just situated off of the eastern side of the Bahamas. I'll show you that on the visible satellite imagery. Again, this is part of that whole kind of trough area, which is situated over the eastern Gulf, right through the Strait of Florida towards Cuba, and then back out into the western Atlantic. And around this area is where we could still have a weak chance for tropical development. It's now just a 20% chance, and it is moving away. That's the forecast up the United States East Coast. So back to the cooler waters already, which is one reason why the Hurricane Center has dropped that chance. It was high as 40% 2 days ago, but it's now back down to 20. But with this trough situated over the area, there's a lot of lift in the atmosphere over the Bahamas right now, and showers and storms are becoming fairly prevalent for today, and they're going to be developing very efficiently. What do you say we take a live look right now out of the Miami radar for some of the thunderstorms here? Again, passing showers, isolated storms. Walker's Key, Grand Bahama, right over the Abacos. Nice hefty rain moving over the Bimini area right now, northern sides of Andros towards Nassau, New Providence. Dry at this point in time, but you can catch a couple of lightning strikes east of Eleuthera and Cat Island, and some of that activity could be trying to swing its way back in. When I bring back on the visible satellite imagery, again, you can see that's where the spin is, and that should still kick waves of rain and a few thunderstorms back towards Cat Island, San Salvador, Rum Cay, Long Island, and the Exuma areas as we go through the remainder of this Thursday. Of course, we have our live camera here at Long Island. You can see the fairly overcast conditions, some of the stormy clouds that have rolled its way over Long Island for today. Again, you know, is it a persistent rain? No, but this is just continuing to develop showers and thunderstorms and kicking them back into, especially the central or the northern Bahamas here. So watch out for that. There's an isolated severe risk from time to time. Gusty winds, obviously boaters need to be very cautious, marine interests here with the kind of lightning that we're having at this point in time. Switch back over to the enhanced satellite imagery. You can clearly see that spin. Now, the interesting thing is because the southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos are on the south side of this spin, the thunderstorms developing in the eastern sides of Cuba will try and make a run towards Inagua, the Acklins, Mayaguana, Caicos, and Grand Turk. It's not going to be, again, anything more than spotty or isolated thunderstorms, but the chance will be there as we roll through the latter half of the afternoon hours of this Thursday. Thunderstorms, an isolated variety to begin with, but now they're really getting going across portions of the Yucatan from Cancun, Cozumel, Tulum, really cranked up inland. You're going to try and make that run west towards the Merida, Campeche areas later in the day. The Chetumal area, again, the opportunity for a few storms there. We are drying out, though, relatively speaking, the farther south that you go. So Belize and Guatemala, an isolated thunderstorm possible for today, but not as much moisture to play with here. That means the Bay Islands should be relatively dry. Still a bit of a breeze, hot conditions, you know, temperatures again that are going to be on the, unpleasant side from time to time here. You know, those are your actual air temperatures, which will reach the lower 90s, and feels like numbers in a lot of spots are going to be in the triple digits. Thunderstorms are developing off the coastline of Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and especially over Panama, and beginning to work their way back in. Locally heavy rainfall possible there as that moisture continues to stream in with the monsoon trough. And then back over to my friends in the ABC Islands. It's been an extremely hot day. Feels like temperatures here have been right around 100 degrees. Not in a lot of way of any rain. Let's check out the wind gusts. You know, Oranjestad has to be kicking a wind of around 30. Same thing for the Willemstad area there of Curacao. So it's been a breezy, another beautiful afternoon. And again, we wrap up our live cameras here with Oranjestad. Fantastic shot. The aqua near the beach, the breezy conditions in the palm trees, but the sun glistening there in Aruba at the hour. Great shot. Appreciate it. If you guys appreciate any of that, you're getting anything out of these videos, I really do appreciate you guys taking a quick second and hitting that like button for me right now and subscribing to the channel. Both of those things help out the channel more than you guys could ever think. I do appreciate you guys sharing this video with your family and friends, and those who have found other ways to support the channel as well via our memberships and our Super Thanks program here on the channel. All right, so now we're going to look at what's going to be happening the next couple of days and then deep dive into the tropics. So I'm going to pull up the model, and we're just going to go out the next couple of afternoons because I want to get you island by island in the short term where I expect impactful weather. At this point in time, none of the tropical systems that I've mentioned, and of course, we don't really even talk about Dexter, it's getting out of here. These two aren't going to directly impact any of our areas over the next 3 days. However, we are going to see robust tropical moisture return to the Windward Islands. Look, places like Trinidad and Tobago, it's kind of never leaving. We stay in a fairly wet pattern the next several days, and some of that moisture just lifts up to the north. So again, TNT, Nueva Esparta, eventually Grenada and the Grenadines, especially the southern sides of the Grenadines, but we'll sneak up some heavier rain towards St. Vincent and Barbados and St. Lucia. Still expecting the best chance for rain to more than likely be on Saturday, but we'll see how quickly this plume of moisture traverses the area. It could arrive a little bit later and hold back some of that heavier rain on Sunday. Right now, I have us outside of TNT drying out a little bit on Sunday for areas north in the Windward Islands, but we'll see how it plays out. But it could be a very wet and even potentially stormy start to the weekend across most of the Windward Islands. Obviously, that would bring about the opportunity for a flood advisory here or there, and also kicking up the sea conditions locally as we move through the early part of the weekend. You get north towards Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe, Montserrat, Antigua, Barbuda. Again, rain chances are decent, but the moisture content is just not as high in the atmosphere, so it's going to be more spotty rain for these areas, especially across the Leeward Islands. Not a bad weekend ahead for Antigua and Barbuda and our friends in Anguilla and St. Martin and St. St. Bart's. Again, a few passing showers here or there. We'll see improving rain chances return to the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico, but these are still going to be passing showers, but they're heat relief kinds of rains. We could use that. Again, heat advisories have been hoisted through most of Puerto Rico the last several afternoons with feels like numbers 100 to 105 Fahrenheit most days. Now some of these showers are trying to develop in the early afternoon and cool things off a bit. We're going to see, again, some better rain chances early for the Dominican Republic and Haiti, but nothing outrageous. Very average rain chances for this time of the year for Santo Domingo and the Samana Peninsula, Puerto Plata, on over towards Lecay and Port-au-Prince. Rain chances will stay decent over Jamaica as well. It will all be about the local wind direction. If we can stay with a bit of a southerly breeze, we should allow a few more showers, and you can see that overall the next 3 days for our friends of Jamaica to develop in the eastern parishes. Overall, I'm still favoring central and western parishes for the thunderstorms and the heavier rain potential in the afternoon, but it would be nice to spread the love, if you will, and get a little bit of better rain across the entire island. Spotty showers expected over the Cayman Islands the next couple of days. Again, nothing organized at this point in time, but Grand Cayman, Little Cayman, and Cayman Brac could run into a rogue shower or storm. Higher sea breeze opportunity with the storms over Cuba. It's going to be an interesting forecast over the Bahamas the next couple of days, favoring northern areas, northwest Bahamas, for the heftiest and most widespread rain. Again, it's a very wet forecast overall from the eastern Gulf across the peninsula of Florida and into the western Atlantic around those boundaries. Showers and thunderstorms will efficiently develop over the next couple of days. There's a lot of lift in the atmosphere, and again, even the localized old boundaries from the thunderstorms and the sea breeze interaction, it all comes together to mean a fairly wet forecast with locally heavy rain and a fair amount of lightning as well. Can't even rule out a waterspout here and there as these interactions collide, the old outflow boundaries and the sea breezes. You can get some rogue rotation within some of those storms, so be mindful of that. Drier, especially southeast Bahamas, kind of average rain for the central Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, again, more on the spottier side. Still expecting overall, even though we had some good thunderstorms today in Cancun and Cozumel, you notice that after tomorrow, we might see that dry up, just a little bit. Now, I do expect better rain chances for Merida and Campeche because the thunderstorms will develop along the eastern side and then work their way west and really blossom as they do so each and every afternoon. It's going to be spotty rain for Belize and coastal Guatemala on over towards Utila, Roatan, and Guanaja. Again, it's not an outrageous chance, 30 to a 40% chance for us here. Nothing of an organized tropical nature coming our way. Not a ton of tropical moisture in the shorter term. Healthier rain potential for our friends down in the southern sides of Nicaragua, Costa Rica, and into Panama. Now, Bermuda will be kind of wedged in between these two systems. As this one tries to develop, it'll be north of the area, but south wind should pull in a couple of showers, and at least over the next 3 days, Invest 96L, even if it ultimately makes its way towards Bermuda, will not have any direct impacts. You can see in the 3-day time frame, the GFS model is trying to paint on a little bit more development right in that orange area. So here's your island by island rainfall forecast. It looks like this. 50% chance northwest Bahamas tomorrow, Saturday, 40 on Sunday, slightly lower in the central and southeast Bahamas, Turks and Caicos. Cuba's rain chances stay very high. Cayman Islands rain chances are scattered. Same situation for Belize, just a 30% chance for Belize City. So, the heat could start to be a story here, especially inland towards San Ignacio. A couple of scattered showers and thunderstorms. Best chance for Cancun, Cozumel tomorrow, then more isolated Saturday and Sunday. Jamaica's rain chances are a little bit higher, 50% chance the next couple of days. Still not bad on Sunday at 40%. And it's just really average rain chances overall for the Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, and the Virgin Islands, highlighted by a little bit more rain tomorrow and especially Saturday for Puerto Rico, but actually drying out a bit again on Sunday. Best rain chances in Bermuda are tomorrow, then isolated over the weekend, and the rain chances aren't horrible again for Anguilla, St. Kitts, and Nevis, but I'm not talking about a lot of rain in most of these spots. Antigua, Barbuda, Montserrat, Saint Eustatius, Guadalupe, Dominica, a little bit dry tomorrow, better rain chance Saturday. Northern areas continue to dry out some Sunday, but again, we start to see the rain chances build in. So Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent, and the Grenadines, right now, I have your best chance for rain on Saturday with it drying out a bit on Sunday. But there is a chance, depending on how this plays out, that some of that moisture could linger deeper into Sunday, and I might have to raise the rain chance on Sunday. But right now, I do expect the best chance for rain in the Windward Islands to be on Saturday. So I apologize for this. This should say Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. I feel like if I ever screw this up, it's the last one. So I apologize for my friends here. So tomorrow, Friday, still scattered rain, Barbados and Grenada, better rain chances in Trinidad. Then Saturday, rain chances are much more elevated, drying out a bit on Sunday. Suriname and Guyana, pretty good rain chances there, especially again to begin the weekend. Look, Nueva Esparta, again, Saturday, 60% chance. Now tomorrow, the ABC Islands could see some decent rain. That would be great as well. All right, wave heights and directions. Remember that this model is based off the GFS. Now, this is going to lead into our tropical discussion, but you can clearly see that the GFS model wants to bring in a couple of different systems here in the next week. You potentially even have one in the Caribbean, but more than likely we're talking about the Atlantic and potentially one in the Southwest Gulf. We'll talk about all of this coming up, but I just wanted to, again, remind you guys that when you see that wave height product graphic, it is brought to you, if you will, by the GFS model. So if you watched yesterday's video, I showed you guys the GFS and the European models and just talked about how we really look to activate, and it's not like you press a button, but we're just talking about that time of the year where here in the Atlantic basin, we're going to see these tropical waves coming off the west coast of Africa, and you can clearly see they're already better organized. Just develop, become stronger, and begin to make a run closer to our area. Now, in the short term with 96L, and that's the main game right now because that's the one that's developed. Let's take a look at what the models are talking about with that one. I'm just going to go out to next Wednesday, the 13th. So I'm not going any outrageous point in time here. You know, we're just talking about the next week ahead. That's it. So this is what the GFS model does with 96L. It keeps it in that orange area. Unfortunately, it also tries to wrap it up and bring it close to Bermuda early to mid next week. So my friends at Bermuda, this is an area that I'll be monitoring for you guys as we get towards, let's say, Tuesday, Wednesday of next week. So GFS deterministic at this point in time begins that recurve well away from the Lesser Antilles and throws that towards Bermuda. Again, that's 96L, which is likely to become a named storm based on everything that I've seen. Again, Aaron, the E-named storm, is the next one on the list. It does have some interesting features here coming through. You can clearly see that as we get towards, again, mid next week, it's, if nothing else, throwing a lot more moisture through the Caribbean here and into the northwest sides of the Caribbean. And that's what you saw on the wave height model as it gets into the Southwest Gulf, potentially even developing even more. Much more activity, right? Bottom line. Down the road, all right, if I pause this at the very last frame, again, this is next Wednesday, that's 96L, that's the next tropical wave, right? That one might have a little bit more of a due west push than anything. I can show you guys the winds here. These are going to be your surface-based winds. Again, it's easier if I drop off this potential development area, and I'll even just drop off that L real quick as well. So again, when we look at these winds, and these are surface-based winds, you can clearly see the GFS begins to tighten up 96L into a fairly significant system just south of Bermuda. Now again, this is still just one model run, but the trends are following that recurve, and that GFS model is right in the center of that orange area from the National Hurricane Center. If we go back and look at what is the intensity of this, again, next Wednesday, south of Bermuda. Apologize, whenever I do that, I have to bring it back out to the time frame here and then re-click this button as well. It's not the easiest thing. It's a tropical storm, right? Potentially still strengthening, but these are sustained winds in some areas here that are over 50, maybe 55 miles an hour. So based on the GFS model, you'd have Tropical Storm Aaron working its way towards Bermuda. But again, the European model is even stronger than that. And then this is the next wave developing here. And really, when we look at the European model, which we'll take out a little bit farther in time, you'll see that this wave tries to develop fairly quickly after the 13th. We'll make sure there's nothing else I wanted to show you here with the GFS model. I don't think so. So, and again, you know, close to home as far as the Bahamas and the eastern side of the United States, closer to that area, you have a little bit of wind, but nothing here. And even the European model gets a little bit interesting in the eastern Gulf next week as well, but the GFS doesn't pick up anything. There's just a lot of moisture coming in. The GFS is farther south here into the Caribbean. This is what I wanted to show you. I knew there was something else. The winds associated with that next wave coming through there. Nothing crazy organized, but really fresh winds coming in with that slug of moisture. Okay, European model, vorticity, right? And I'm gonna let this loop up. Now again, this time frame is a little bit later. It starts next Monday through next Thursday, I believe, okay? Yeah, even into maybe early next Friday. This is the Lesser Antilles. That's 96L, could become Aaron, but this is that next wave. And you can clearly see that the European model has a fairly vigorous system trying to work its way into the Eastern Caribbean by the end of next week. And on the heels of that, there is yet another tropical wave which is already developing. I feel like we've really opened up the Atlantic basin on the last several model runs of the European and the GFS model, and everything looks to be very conducive for potential development. So while 96L, which is out there right now, looks to be no threat to the Eastern Caribbean, we're going to have to watch the subsequent waves next week for a lower latitude run here. And let me show you guys the overall Atlantic basin. And just look at it. You guys don't even need me to point it out. If you see all of the systems lining up like a tropical wave train on the bottom of your screen, you know, those are all of the different waves in the European model that try and sneak into our area. Some recurve north before, others kind of blast through. Obviously, it's a situation to monitor, but what I do expect, and with everything I've been watching the last couple of days and week or so behind the scenes, is a very active pattern could be developing here in the Atlantic basin, which means we just have to be on alert to monitor each and every one of these waves that comes off the West African coast and how those are going to traverse the Atlantic as they get closer to us. European chance of tropical depression over the next 10 days. That's Dexter. Again, you could ignore that. That's the monsoon trough. But you have what are actually two areas, one going here and one getting into the Leeward Islands towards the Virgin Islands and Puerto Rico down the road. And as I've mentioned, it even paints a little small area in the Eastern Gulf as well. So the European model, along with the GFS, is quite active, but the areas of potential concern as far as where they might be going, obviously that's still up in the air and the models aren't in a lot of agreement with that. But I think next week's waves will really bear some monitoring. And of course, 96L, we'll keep an eye out for that recurve and getting closer to Bermuda early next week. Friends, I appreciate you guys. Follow us across all social media, Instagram, TikTok, X, and Facebook. You want to send me a picture or video, send it to mymeteomundo@gmail.com. If you have a specific question about the forecast, feel free to drop it in the comments section below. And while you're down there, thanks for taking a quick second and liking and subscribing. Come on, let's get these views up. I appreciate you guys. Please remember that Meteo Mundo is sponsored by the leading law firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. It's storm season. The storm moves into your area. You get property damage of any kind. They'll walk you through the insurance claim process. They offer free consultation and policy reviews. You got nothing to lose. You want to support someone who supports us? It's leanonmelaw.com. Friends, have a great rest of your day. I'm back tomorrow with the latest forecast right here at Meteo Mundo.